Hello everyone, welcome back to my class. I am Chaitra. In the last video we had discussed about the basic addressing modes that we were using in the instruction set, isn't it? So today we shall look about some more instruction set that we are used in your addressing modes. The next type of your addressing mode is your indexing arrays. So indexing array is having a slight difference in your indirect addressing mode. What you were doing in your indirect addressing mode, that is the general purpose register will be enclosed within the parenthesis. So if your register has been enclosed within the parenthesis means it was understood that it is an indirect addressing mode. Same is being represented in your index addressing mode also, but the difference between your indirect as well as your index mode is that you will be adding again an constant value to your addressing mode or to your effective address. So the effective address can be calculated as x of Ri. So in your indirected mode, the general purpose register will be enclosed within the bracket, isn't it? Then you will be calling it as an indirect mode. Now to this indirect mode, you will be adding a constant value. This constant value you will be calling it as an offset or displacement. So this is the difference between your indirect as well as your index addressing mode. So how this index addressing mode will work upon? So let's look upon in your memory mapping function. So in this index addressing mode, the offset or displacement can be a constant value or else it can be an address of your memory location. So here I have written a two memory mapping of your instruction set, whereas in your first case, consider this is a first case, let it be a second case. In your first case, the offset or displacement, what is the offset? The constant value you will be calling it as an offset or displacement. So here in the first case, the offset or the displacement value is being given as a value itself in the instruction. So now what the instruction is, add 50 R1 comma R2. So the offset value or the x value, x is being given as the value itself in the instruction explicitly. So now I am going to check the contents of my R1 register. So coming on to my R1 register, 1000 is my memory location. So I need to add 50 offset to my indirect register. So my effective address to get the operand where the content of the register is being present will be present in the 1050th location. Fine. So instruction 50 R1, R1 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದೆ? So in that R1 you will be having the memory address of 1000. So I will be going to R1, 1000 memory location. From 1000 memory location again I will be adding the x constant value. Why? Because to calculate the effective address in your index addressing mode, I need to calculate or I need to sum up my constant value, that is your offset as well as your general purpose register. So I can write it this also as x plus Ri. So now I will be going to calculate the effective address. First I will be going and checking my general purpose register R1. Here in the R1 I got the memory address as 1000. Now I coming back to my 1000 memory location. What I need to add it on? The constant value 50. So I will be adding the constant value 50 to my memory address, that is 1000. Next I will be getting 1050. Here my actual content of the register is being present. So you will be calling this as an effective address of my instruction. Fine. So in the second case, here the constant value or the x value is being given as a value in the instruction itself. Sometimes this x value will be present in the general purpose register. Here directly I have given the memory location in the instruction, and in the general purpose register the offset or the displacement value will be present. So again your instruction add 1000 R1 comma R2. So what I need to do, I will be going and checking my general purpose register content. What it is been present here, R1 is 50 value. Again I will be coming back to my 1000 memory location, add upon my 50 constant value to this memory address, and then I will be reaching my effective address position. That is what? 1050th position, where my actual operand is being present. Here it becomes an effective addressing. So this is how your index addressing mode gets operates. So same as your indirect addressing mode, but the difference here is in your index addressing mode you will be adding upon a constant value, that is your offset or displacement. So you need to add upon your offset or displacement, either that that offset will be given in the instruction directly, or it will be present in your general purpose register. Fine. So now let us look upon a simple program how this index addressing mode gets operates. Here is a simple example to compute the sum of the test scores of a student in all the tests. So consider here a memory mapping, that is student ID test 1, test 2, test 3. So next again comes with the second student, that is again your student ID test 1, test 2, test 3. So how this memory mapping will get work on with a simple program, that is with your index addressing mode. Fine. So again in the previous class we had explained for your indirect addressing mode, the same program is been explained here in the index addressing mode, but the slight difference here, that is in that previous example we were calculating the sum of n students. Here you will be calculating the sum of the test scores for each student in all the tests. Fine. So the first student will be placing in the memory mapping, or memory address will be placed to the list value. So the R0 register will always be holding the list of students. Next R1, R2, R3 registers will be used to hold the values that is being scored in test 1, test 2, test 3 respectively. Next R4 register will be used to hold the number of students that are been taking the test. That is, if the 10 students are taking the test, means R4 register will be holding the value of 10. If there are 20 students, 20. If there are 100 students, then R4 register will be holding the value of 100. Fine. So let's look about the instructions that is being interrupted in your program. So the very first instruction is your move n comma R4. So what is there in the n place? So number of students who are taking the test, that value will be stored in your R4 register. If 10 students, so 10 value will get stored in your R4 register. Next is move hash list comma R0. So R0 will be placing to the first element or the first student of your test they are attempting. Fine. Next, clear R1, R2, R3. Why? Because why I am clearing? Because R1, R2, R3 registers are holding the test values of test 1, test 2, test 3. So initially all these three registers will be cleared to 0, and as when the instruction get processed, the test 1 marks go and fit into the R1 register, test 2 marks get fit into your R2 register, as well as test 3 to R3 register. Next, add 4 R0 comma R1. So add 4 R0 comma R1 means list plus 4, that is test 1 marks will be placed to your R1 register, and again add 8 R0 to R2. So again 8 R0 means list plus 4, again plus 4 will be gets incremented to place to the next test score. So list plus 4 to list plus 8. So test 2 marks will get and fit into your R2 register. And again add 12 R0 comma R3. Again list plus 8 plus 4 will be getting into your list plus 12. Again list plus 12 allenide. Sorry, again list plus 12 will get into your test 3 score. So now the test 3 score will come and fit into your R3 register. Now the first students, that is the student ID test 1, test 2, test 3 mark is being get stored to your R1, R2, R3 registers. Fine. Now I got all the test scores of one student. What the problem statement of my program? I need to find out the test scores of all the tests of all the students. Now I found out only one student test marks of all the 3 tests, that is 1, 2, 3. Now again I need to find out the another student marks of all the 3 tests. So what I will be doing, again add hash 16 comma R0. Add hash 16 will again placing to my second student. Fine. Till here we had find it out the test marks of one student. Now I am going to identify or calculate the test marks of my second student. Again add 16 comma R0, decrement R4. Decrement R4 means, as I initially told, if there are 10 students, 10 value will be get stored to your R4 register. Now decrement R4 means now it get into your 9. So I will be calculating the 9th student test values now. So again decrement R4, branch greater than 0, back. If the condition is true, yes, true. That is 9 is greater than 0, isn't it? So again I will be going back to the loop. Fine. Again I will be processing the same instructions. So now I will be calculating the test score of my second student. Here I have been decremented R4, right? For my first student I calculated, consider it is an A student. I calculated the test scores of all the A students values. Now I need to calculate the test score of all the B student value. So I have been decremented R4 and I am executing the same instruction again. Add 4 R0 comma R1. Again it will be coming on to add 4 R0 comma R1, test 2 values of second student, test 1, test 2, test 3. Fine, understood. This is how this continuation of loop until where? Until the condition gets fails. That is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. When it reaches 0, your condition gets failed out and you will be exiting of the loop. Fine. Next what you will be doing, now your R1, R2, R3 register, what it is been having? It is having the test scores of all the tests of all the students, right? Now I will be transferring these values. R1 is been having the test 1 scores of all the students. R2 is having the test scores of all the test 2 scores of all the students. R3 is having the test 3 scores of all the students. Now I will be transferring these values to the respective labels, that is your sum1, sum2, sum3. Fine. This is how you will be calculating the test scores for all the students in all the tests. This is how your index addressing mode gets operates. Fine. Understood? So the next variation of your index addressing mode is index mode with base offset. Coming on to the variation of your index addressing mode, there are two variations in your index addressing. The very first is base with index mode and the second one is base with index and offset mode. So in the previous index addressing mode, what you were doing, so you will be having an index general purpose register. Along with the general purpose register, you will be adding upon a constant value, that is your offset or displacement. Here what you will be doing, to calculate your effective address, you will be using two general purpose register, that is your RI and RJ. So whereas RI is used as a general purpose register and RJ is being used to store the value of X. That is, you might be looking that where is the value of X here. So the second register will be handling to carry the contents of X. Either it might be a value or it might be the address of your memory location. That is why the name is being called it as base with index mode. Fine. So the second variation is base with index and offset mode. So again two registers you will be using. Along with these two registers you will be using an offset or displacement value. Then for what purpose these two registers has been used? Again these two registers are being used to carry out the operands. So whatever the operands, if you are carrying out with the two operand values, then you can use up with two general purpose registers and one X value, that is pure offset or displacement. Fine. This is all about your index addressing mode. Now let's move on to the next type of your addressing mode, that is your relative addressing mode. So what do you mean by relative addressing mode? This is another flexible type of your addressing mode where you will be using the program counter to hold the value of the operands. So this X will be a constant value, that is offset or displacement, whereas program counter will be carrying out the task of carrying the contents of the operands. So again your effective address will be calculated as X plus PC, X into PC, that is your X is your offset or displacement, whereas the PC is your program counter, whereas this program counter is responsible to carry out the contents of your operands. In the previous addressing mode, the operands will be always carried out by your general purpose registers. It might be R1, R2, R3, whatever the name you were giving. But in your relative addressing mode, this function will be carried out by your PC. That might be your program counter. Fine. That is why it is being called it as relative addressing mode. Fine. So the last type of your addressing mode is your additional modes. So these are some of the basic addressing mode, that is your immediate, direct, indirect, index as well as your relative addressing mode. Out of these addressing modes, again you will be having two more additional modes, that is your auto increment and auto decrement. So there is not much difference between your auto increment and auto decrement mode. This auto increment mode is used to calculate or is used to increment the general purpose register to find out the effective address. So in your auto increment mode, how your effective address is being reached means, to calculate your effective address, you will be reaching the contents of the general purpose register and it will be incremented automatically to forward to the next entity. So that is how you will be calculating to your effective address. Again in your auto decrement, first the content of the register will be decremented and then it will be reaching to the the effective address of your general purpose register. In your auto increment mode, first the general purpose register address will be reached and from there to move on to the next entity you will be incrementing it. Whereas in your auto decrement mode, you will be decrementing the content of the register itself first initially and then you will be reaching to the effective address position. That is what the difference between your auto increment and auto decrement mode. Okay. So when you are writing a general program for your auto increment or your auto decrement mode, in your previous direct mode and indirect mode, you have been finding out the program for calculating the n numbers, sum of n numbers. The same program have been written here, but only thing is there you will be adding another instruction called add R2, R0. But here I will be directly replacing that instruction with auto increment mode. So I will be writing the instruction as add R2 plus R0. So what it means, I will be calculating the effective address and I will be taking the contents of the register and to move on to the next entity, I will be incrementing my general purpose register. Same if I need to do up with the auto decrement mode means what I will be doing, I will be first decrementing the contents of my register and then I will be moving to the effective address of this register. Fine. Next I will be taking that contents and I will be moving on to your R2, R0 register. Fine. This is how your auto increment and auto decrement addressing modes get operates. This is all about your addressing modes, that is your immediate, direct, indirect, relative, indexing, and your finally the additional modes, that is your auto increment and auto decrement modes. Fine. Let's move on to the next topic, that is your assembly language. We generally use symbolic rhymes to write a program, isn't it? So these mnemonics and the set of rules that will be governing on these mnemonics will be constituting an assembly language. So whatever the programs or whatever the mnemonics we are using, it might be move, add, decrement, return, and these are all some of the mnemonics or symbolic names that will be using to write a program. This and the rules that we are following to write a program, this constitutes an assembly language. So whatever the program we are writing, that will be called it as an source program. As you already know, the computer can understand only the machine language, that is the constitutes of zeros and ones. So I need to convert this source program to an machine language program. So to this conversion, I need an system software known as an assembler. So my whatever the program I am writing in my assembly language, that is, what do you mean by an assembly language? Assembly language is nothing but the constituents of the rules that we are following on the mnemonics. So this assembly language program, whatever you are writing, will be called it as a source program. This source program I need to convert into a machine language program. That machine language program will be called it as an object program. So the conversion of source program to object program is done by a system software called as assembler. So this assembler is responsible for the conversion of source program into an object program, and there are certain commands in your assemblers. That commands will be called it as your assembler directives. So what is the operation of these assembler directives? These assembler directives which have been mentioned here, that is equi, origin, data word, reserve, return, end. So these are some of the assembler directives which will be called it as the commands of the assembler. These commands I need not change from my source program to object program. Why? Because these are the commands of the assembler or the commands of the system software. As soon as I enter to these commands, I will be understood what operation I need to constitute it. So this will be referred as your opcodes. So I doesn't need to perform any operation on that, whereas equi assembler directive or equi command will always be taking the responsibility of replacing the value with the substituent value. If I give some value in that previous example, you can look it here. Equi 200 means as soon as I encounter an equi assembly directive, I will be replacing the sum label with the 200 value. So I need not transfer my source program to object program. Instead, I will be using my assembler directive to carry out that function. Why I am not using means, again I can save out my memory location. Instead of changing each instruction to my object program, I need to have certain memory location. So instead of that, I will be using my assembler directives. Again, origin assembler directive will be used to start up the program, where at which memory location your program gets started up, and data word will be placing the first location of your memory, and the reserve assembler directive or the command will be always reserving some data bytes for the additional purpose. Sometimes you will be carrying out the sum of n students, again you need to store back that sum to another register. Again, if you don't have the memory location means, for that purpose you will be initially reserving some extra memory location through my assembler directive, that is your reserve. Next is return. Return, as soon as the return statement is being encountered, it indicates the program termination. where the execution of the program gets terminated. Next, the last is your end. End is the end of your source program itself. So now let us look at a simple example how this directive gets operates. So here the sum equi 200 means I encountered with equi assembler directive. So I will be replacing the sum with 200 value. Next, origin 204. I need to start up my program at 204 memory location. N data word 100. So this will be holding with the n numbers values and num1 reserve 400. I am reserving 400 bytes of memory location for my additional purpose. Again, origin 100. I need to start up my program. Now the program gets started. That is the addition of n numbers which I explained previously the program. The same program I have been started here. Next, this program will be terminating its execution as soon as my return directive is being encountered. Now this terminates the execution of the program as soon as the return directive is being reached, and end directive will be indicates the end of the source program. So this is how your assembly directive will be operating. Instead of converting my source program to object program, I am using the assembler commands to carry out that operation. If I need to replace the value with some other value, I will be using equi. If I need to start up with, I will be using origin, where the first element should be identified, that data word. Return is termination and end is end of the complete source program itself. Fine. This is how your assembler directive gets operates with the help of your system software called as your assembler. So the assembler is responsible for converting of source program into your object program. This is all about your assembly language, that is the use of mnemonics and their rules. Fine. Understood? So we shall. Yes, coming on to your next topic, that is your basic input and output operation. So what is the basic input and output operation? So whatever the input that we are given to a computer, that we will be getting in your display unit, isn't it? So consider a problem that which arises in your basic input and output operation. Suppose now the problem statement which has been given to you is, I need to enter an input from a keyboard that need to be get displayed in your video terminal. So consider the problem that might be, you will be having a typing speed which will be doesn't get match up with the video terminal displaying that can display thousands of characters at a time. So there is need to have a synchronization between your input device as well as your output device. So to solve up this problem, we had come across the two buffer registers that you will be calling it as data in and data out buffer registers. So whenever you press a key in a keyboard, that will be carried out or that will be monitored by an status flags called as S in and S out. So when this S in status flag is 1, it is understood that the buffer register, always the keyboard or the video keyboard input device will be having one buffer register, and the display or the output device will be having another buffer register called as data out. So you will be entering the key when you press in a keyboard, that will be moved on to your data in register, and it will be all these processor, input device and output device will be connected using your bus structure. So when you enter a key in your keyboard, it does not directly move to your processor. What happens? It will be go and fit in your buffer register, that is called as data in. So when the data in is being filled, your S in status flag is set to 1. So when S in is 1, it is understood to the processor that your buffer register is being filled. Now you can read a character from a buffer register. So at that time you can make use that time to enter another key in your keyboard. That is how you will be increasing your typing speed in your keyboard, as well as the coming on to your display unit, that is your output device. Again the data in register, the data is been read by the processor from the data in register, and then it is sent to your data out register before it reaches to your output device. So it will be dumping to the buffer register called as data out. Once the buffer register data out is been got filled, again this S out will be set to 1. When this S out is set to 1 means some data is present in the data out buffer register. So now the data is being transferred from the processor to the display unit, that is your output or video terminal. So this is how I will be this is how you will be synchronizing the operation between your input device and your output device. So when S in is 1, it is understood that the keyboard or the processor is ready to read the character from the buffer register. When S out is 1, the processor is sending the data from the processor to display unit. If S in is 0, it is understood that some key need to get into filled out into your buffer register data in. Again, if S out is 0, next again the processor has to send the data from the input device to your buffer register data out. So you can write this problem statement using the instruction set as follows. Summarize the overall basic input output operation using these instructions. So I will be writing as read wait. When I will be waiting to read a character from a keyboard, yes, branch to read wait if sin is equal to 0. Sin is a status flag which will be present in your input device. If sin is equal to 0, I will be carry out the function as read wait. Input from data into R0. If sin is 1, I will be inputting a data from data into R1. R1 is a processor register. I will be transferring the data from my buffer register data into my processor register R1. Fine. Same operation I will be carrying out to my output device also. That is write wait. What do you mean by write wait? I will be writing the contents from my processor to my output device, isn't it? So I will be write wait is happens when branch to write wait if out status flag is 0. That is the buffer register is not filled. If out is 1, that is you will be carrying out the function as output from R1 to data out. That is from my processor to buffer register which is present in your output device. This is the overall operation of your basic input output operations. On to your next topic, that is the use of stacks. So what do you mean by a stack? Stack is an special what do you mean by a stack? Stack is a special type of data structure that is used to store the data where the elements is being inserted from one end and with the same end you will be deleting the element. So you will be carrying out two operations in your stack, that is your insertion. So the first operation is insertion, where you can insert the element to your stack at the top of it. So you will be calling it as push operation. When you are adding an element to your stack means you will be inserting that element from the top of the stack, and that operation you will be calling it as push operation. Whereas coming on to the delete operation, you will be deleting an element again from the same end of the stack, that is from the top of the stack, and that operation you will be calling it as pop operation. Whereas you will be having another pointer register which will be always pointing to the top of the stack at any given time, and that pointer register you will be calling it as SP. Whereas SP is nothing but an stack pointer which will be always pointing to the top of the stack at any given time. Either you insert an element into a stack or you delete an element from the stack, this pointer will be placing to the first element in your stack memory location. Fine. Again here you will be to carry out the push operation. Here it is a memory mapping of your stack, where stack pointer is facing to the top element, that is the current top element. Again you will be having the elements below it, and the right bottom element will be an empty. This will be an bottom element, and you will be carrying out the push and pop operation in a decreasing memory address. Fine. Whereas to carry out the push operation, what might be the instruction you need to write it out? That is, first to carry out the push operation, the instruction will be as follows. Instruction to carry out the push and pop operation is, the very first, if I need to insert an element into a stack, that is I need to carry out the push operation, means first I need to decrement my stack pointer. That is, as I already written as stack pointer memory mapping, isn't it? There had been written as decreasing memory addressing. First what I need to do is, I need to subtract, I need to decrement my stack pointer to point out to my next entity. Next I need to carry out my num1 to my stack pointer. Fine. Again if I need to carry out my push operation is, first I need to push, or I need to pop up my element from the stack where I need to take it out, that is the stack pointer, move stack pointer to the sum, and next I need to place, or I need to increment my stack pointer to point to my first element. This is how the instruction will need to be carried out to carry out my push and pop operation. And two more variations you need to remember in your stack element, that is your safe push and safe pop. So what do you mean by safe push? So I can insert an element to my stack only to certain limit. So if my stack is having an element which, if my stack is full, again if I try to insert an element, means I will be getting it as an push error. Next, if in my stack there are 10 elements, means I have pop out all the 10 elements. Again if I try to pop out the element from my stack, means again I will be redirecting you to an error called as pop error. So I need to look out the the storage capacity of my stack, that is how many memory locations is being allocated to my stack memory, that is, so that I need to carry out based on that element. If safe push means I does not insert an element more than my stack capacity. Next, stack safe pop means if all the elements have been popped out, means again I need not carry out my pop operation. So I need to got to know about my top of the stack as well as the bottom of the stack. If the top of the stack has been reached, I does not need to carry out my push operation. If the bottom of the stack has been reached, means I should not carry out my pop operation. That is what you will be calling it as safe push and safe pop operation. Next type of data structure that you will be carrying out to store the data is queues data structure. Again it is another special type of data structure which is being used to store the data, and the operation will be carried out as same as well as that you will be carrying out in your stacks only. But the difference is, that is in queues you will be carrying out the FIFO operation, that is first in first out. So the insertion of element takes place at one end and the deletion of the element will take place at the another end. That is the difference between your stacks and queues. Fine. So next topic we shall discuss in your next class. Thank you all.